I was 22 years old at the time, and I first went to the dermatologist to get a skin check because I had acne going on, and it was really big, bothersome to me. So while I was sitting in the doctor's office, you know, I knew I had this like rash-like circle on my chest, and I'm not one to ever pursue if anything's bothering me or if anything's abnormal because I hate hearing bad news. You know, I'd rather just go with the flow. It will eventually happen when it happens. So I was sitting in the doctor's office when they called me in, and something pushed me to say, get this checked out. So I told my doctor about it, and she goes, we need to take a biopsy of it. She goes, I think it's basal cell carcinoma. So I said, basal cell carcinoma, biopsy. I was like, what is that? And she was like, well, we're going to take a sample of, you know, this rash type thing that you had on your chest, and we'll call you in 8 days to tell you if it's basal cell or not. Meanwhile, my whole reason why I was there didn't even get covered because of the whole basal cell. So I left the office crying. I was by myself, and I told my mom that, you know, this rash that I had that I thought was just a patch of eczema could be basal cell carcinoma. And she was like, well, what's that? And I said, I don't know. I have no idea. So I did the wrong thing where, you know, you Google basal cell carcinoma and you get basal cell, you get squamous, you get melanoma, and basal cell turned out to be the kind of cancer that if you're going to have skin cancer, that's the kind you want because it's like a slow processing one. So 8 days later, I get the phone call, they confirm it, it's basal cell carcinoma. So now they're like, you need surgery. I'm like, surgery? I was like, I never had surgery before. I thought it was just, you know, kind of cream, ointment. They're like, you need to get it removed. So I got it removed at the hospital, and everything was a success. They got everything out. Christmas Day, I felt fine, perfect. I knew I had a spot on my back that I needed to have checked out. And again, I was hesitant because I was scared of what the result would be. So I go to the doctor to show them the spot on my back, and she takes a biopsy of it. She goes, we'll get back to you within 8 days if there's anything. So I said, okay, you know, I thought it was basal cell because that's what it looked like from my previous one. And I remember I was sitting in my college class. Thankfully, one of my best friends was with me, and my phone rang. And, sorry, I run into the bathroom, and the doctor's like, are you sitting down? So I said, well, no. I was like, I'm in the bathroom. She's like, well, you need to have a seat. So I knew it was something bad. And she proceeds to tell me, she goes, you have melanoma. So from previously looking at, you know, what everything was, I knew that this is a deadly form of skin cancer. And thankfully, my friend realized I was gone from class for like 15, 20 minutes. And she comes in, and she gives me like hugs. She goes, what happened? And I explained that I had a biopsy done on my back, and it's melanoma. She goes, well, what's that? And I said, all I know is that if it's not catched in time, I could be in real trouble. So the doctor on the phone told me I need to set up a meeting with an oncologist, and I drove home. I didn't even go back to class. I told my mom about it, and we both cried, and my dad cried, and you know, it's hard because your daughter is sick with something and you have no control over what it is. So I scheduled my appointment at the oncologist's office, and I had a 3-hour consultation. So I meet up with the consultation, and she begins to tell me, she was like, if this is not caught in time, this is not going to be good. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I was fine, typical 22-year-old that did the whole tanning bit and the sunbathing. And now I'm sitting here basically getting news that if this melanoma is not caught in time, I could be in a long haul road for trouble. So she begins to show me what the surgery will look like, and my surgery for my basal cell was small. This was going to be about this big. It was like the size of a football. I wanted to sit in my bed and just cry, and I hated myself for stupidity of the tanning beds because, you know, you got to have that perfect glowing skin because that's what makes girls beautiful. At least that's what they think makes them beautiful. And I couldn't take anything back because melanoma was there. I wasn't getting rid of it. So the day my surgery came, and my mom and dad were with me, my sister's with me, and my mom came into the operating room with me as I was laying on the table, and I remember the 6 large needles that went into my back to numb me up, and I felt every single one. And then you smell like the burning of your flesh, you know. I was up, and it took about an hour, I would say hour, 15 minutes. They said, we'll call you, if anything, because, you have melanoma, but they don't know if it's spread. They don't know what the size of it is. So again, I'm sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. And I get the phone call to go in for the results like a week later. And I was lucky enough that I caught my melanoma in time. They said, had you waited though, like I was planning on, because I don't like to admit when things are not right, that I'd be in deep trouble. So I was beyond thankful for that. I celebrated with my friends. And, the comfort and support of friends and family is what helped me get through that. So they told me that I had to go for checkups every 3 months at the dermatologist's office. And I did that, and the first 3 months was fine. 6 months goes on, and they found another spot on my back. So I'm like, what could this be? And I found out that I had pre-melanoma. So I went in again for surgery. They got it out in time. Once again, early detection saved my life. So I went for my 9 months, nothing on my body. 12 months, nothing on my body. I was now free of having this skin cancer stuff, to the point where now I only have to go 6 months, which is awesome. And I went recently, and I have nothing on my body, thank God. But it was a rough 2 years. I remember taking off of school because I couldn't focus on schoolwork. I remember shutting out friends because they don't understand what you're going through at the time. And, even though I shut them out, they were still there for me regardless. And some of them have even stopped the whole tanning bed because we all did it as a group. The excessive sunbathing on the beach, we now wear sunscreen, and I'm wearing basically clothes on the beach with a hat. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and it's not worth, the beautiful glowing skin tan that you get is not worth it at all, because I have these scars on me for the rest of my life, and sometimes I'll look at them and they look ugly, but I've realized they're like scars for a warrior, and that's what I've become.